Hello and welcome inside the training room. I am your host, Dr. Ken Kaufman, and I am absolutely pumped to have you here where you get exclusive, behind the scenes, VIP access into the training rooms of professional sports. Thanks for joining us inside the training room. In today's episode, I continue my interview with tech entrepreneur and business development expert, Kevin Angell. He reveals his suggestions for anyone to bring an idea to market when on a tight budget and the importance of building a solid business plan. So what is Crowdsource Geofencing? It's another company that you're involved in.
So that's the actually mother company of the apps that we own.
I see.
So crowdsourced, anytime you crowdsource something, it's basically using the group to get information or to give information to.
Mm-hmm.
And geofencing is that location based. So,
right.
If I wanted to send information to people at a certain park or at a certain gym, I do that by using your location-based services. So the name is very long. It was when I first had the idea for the first app. Looking back now, and if I can pass on information to somebody else, if you plan on doing more than one thing with your business, make sure that it has a name that encompasses other things that you could be doing.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I've pigeonholed myself a little bit with that name, and I've branded it so well, through Google and through all my current clients that it's definitely a mouthful. And in hindsight, I would have made it something a little more encompassing.
Well, that's okay. That now, what other apps do you have? You got the see something, say something.
So we've got another one called the Pet Detective, and the way it works, if you know how Amber Alert works, it's basically the same thing for pets. So you create a profile. Yeah, you create a profile for your, I've got 2 golden retrievers. You create a profile for them. If they go missing, by hitting one button, it sends a pulse alert out to everybody within 1 mile with that animal's picture and with your contact information, so they can kind of be aware. Yeah, it's the digital version of Lost Pet, really.
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
We'll have to see if Heather has that for Trip.
Absolutely.
My business partner's little dog, a little 10-pound dog. So that's a great idea. Another good idea.
And then our newest idea that I'm very proud of. I'm sure you've heard of Airbnb.
Yep.
So
use that all the time.
Perfect. It works on that same type of idea. It's called Parked Close, and what it does is if you live next to, let's say, Raymond James Stadium, and you've got a big front yard, and you usually are out there holding up your $20 parking sign to get people to park there, you can now advertise those spots in the app. So people could actually buy a spot in your front yard for the whole season. They can buy it from out of town. They don't have to try to drive around and try to find you.
Right. Hey, great idea. Another good idea.
Hey, thanks.
You got a million of them. What else you got going?
I've got a book somewhere here around the desk that I write things in, and when the time comes along, we look at those as well. And again, as we push through this, I would recommend that to anybody. I'm sure you do too. Get a book, write your ideas down. They may sound crazy today, but who knows where we'll be in a time like now where that idea could be a $1 billion idea.
That's right. Well, and that's just it. When you since we started Sportsmen On Demand and Inside the Training Room and the Well Connected app, both Heather and myself have been able to basically resurrect a bunch of stuff that we had sitting on the shelf.
Right.
Either books or different content, games, different app ideas. I had a provisional patent on a medical device that now I'm going to be exploring that opportunity because now I have an outlet that we can take and disseminate those products and services that are helpful to people. So you're right. You got to keep a little blog, because I had to go digging in my computer and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I wrote that.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, you guys are definitely making an impact. You're making a reach. As someone who was, an instructor trainer for the Red Cross for many, many years, I recently listened to the podcast where there's the pivot away from rest ice compression elevation to more of a heat.
Yeah.
And when you sit down, if you have a little bit of a medical background, those of us on this side, not, and I know you have a wealth of knowledge, but when you sit down and think about the application after listening, to the podcast, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And that's, and that it, it makes such logical sense but it goes against what, traditionally that, people do.
Sure.
Heck, myself, when I went to the hospital a few months ago, and I tore a couple of ligaments in my ankle. The hospital gave me crutches, wrapped in an ace bandage, told me to ice it and keep it elevated. And, of course, I didn't follow any of that advice.
Right,
I
right.
ditched the crutches right away, walked carefully on it, and took the bandage off. And my ankle's better than it was before, I think.
Sure.
So, so let's talk about, and I think what could be really pertinent to our listeners and our viewers is, in this new kind of paradigm that we're in, and we need to reinvent ourselves. What are some ways to, on a shoestring, you got to bootstrap stuff. Like you said, you invested a lot of your retirement in your ideas, and it's paid off. But how do you go about doing that? Because you want to be, and it doesn't matter if you have a ton of money or just a little bit of money. You don't want to just throw good money after bad. You want to be able to do things in a cost-effective and with a good ROI when you can.
Sure.
What are some steps that people can take to be able to develop that plan and formulate a way to be able to bring an idea to market?
Yeah, and I think right now, one word or group of words that we're all learning is business continuity.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a personal trainer, that word has probably never crossed your mind. But business continuity is having a plan for today, or having a plan if the gym that you're at closes down. How can we do some type of distance training, provide daily videos or vlogs? If you're starting a new idea, believe it or not, now's probably the best time, because you're not up
Mm-hmm.
against anybody else.
Yeah.
You've got time to make the mistakes when something isn't live, but it's also a good time to look back at your business model and consider reinventing it. Consider
Mm-hmm.
redoing the way that you're currently doing it now, knowing what could happen. And I can't stress it enough. I had to sit down and write one. I have a great business plan for what we're doing here. I did
Mm-hmm.
not have an idea for business continuity. And I'm seeing some trainers think outside the box, where they're doing, outside workouts at parks that still have some facilities open, which is
Yep.
great. I'm seeing some of them do daily video workouts, where they'll go through and explain the muscle group that we're working today, and
Mm-hmm.
and not just the one that I don't want to see, I guess, is just posting, hey, do 3x5 chest, do 3x5 this, being able to keep that one-to-one connection.
Right. Right. Got it. So, and that's something that, people could get on right away. They could start, posting some of that knowledge and information right away. So, what is starting off? What is an effective way to be able to start to disseminate that to a broader audience? Because, you got your clients, but then, using this medium, you are effectively multiplying yourself, because you can just do it once, and now you can kind of leverage the power of social media and email marketing.
Yeah, you're spot on. When I first started, since I had put all of my money into building the app, I had to find very cheap but effective ways to do the marketing that you're talking about. If you have email addresses, that email marketing is great. A lot of the platforms out on the market will give you up to a certain number of emails or a certain number of months free. And
Mm-hmm.
now is really the time to look at those, hoping that if there are marketing dollars later, you can go to a paid account. But the one thing we have right now is we've got a lot of people captive on social media, because there's not a lot else to do.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can reach those, if we can grow our followers, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter being the top three, if we can grow that following right now and keep cultivating that, and then keep those followers with good daily content that is short. We don't want to overload them. And as you and I know, sometimes people can be lazy if it's not a topic they're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
But build that following now, and that way
Right.
we convert them into customers later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's been it's been our process. Early on, right? Just creating those. And this is one of the courses that we have on Sportsmen On Demand is serve more clients, make more money. And one of those key chapters is just what you said: is build that following. What you should post and what not to post.
Right.
Because I see trainers and chiropractors all the time trying to, pimp out their wares of showing, like you said, three sets of 10 reps of chest press, and here's this new exercise that I learned, and
right.
that doesn't do anything to kind of let someone know a potential client or a potential fan or whatnot. Doesn't let them know exactly who you are. Because the whole old adage of, people only do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Right.
And so if you're posting videos of you doing exercises or, this latest technique that you have, or this, tool that you got, doesn't tell anybody who you are and what you do, because anybody could go ahead and buy a class 4 laser unit and go ahead and start marketing that.
Right.
But not everybody is that individual person. And especially with chiropractic or personal trainer, that's a relationship that you build, because
right.
it's a hands-on. You see a chiropractor on a regular basis. You should, but you see a personal trainer on a regular basis. You should want to spend some time with that person. If you don't know who they are, that's a big question mark. Thank you again for joining us inside the training room. Please join me in the last episode with Kevin Angell, where we discuss the mistakes of offering discounts, coupons, and freebies when attracting clients, and how developing a deep understanding of your potential customers is the key to building a successful personal training or fitness business.